In 326 BCE, the thunder of hooves rolled across the Indus Valley. The world's greatest military commander, Alexander the Great, had crossed into the Indian subcontinent. He had conquered Persia, crushed Egypt, and brought the known world to its knees. But now, he would face his greatest trial, not just in battle, but in spirit. This is the real story of Alexander's invasion of India, the clash with King Porus, the rebellion of his own army, and the moment when the world's greatest conqueror finally stopped. After defeating Darius III and annexing the Persian Empire, Alexander sought to push eastward beyond the limits of the known world. He had heard tales of rich kingdoms, fierce warriors, and gold beyond imagination. India, then a land of fractious states and ancient dynasties, stood next. He crossed the formidable Hindu Kush and the river Indus, encountering fortified towns and battle-hardened tribes. His path was soaked in resistance. Yet none matched what waited for him near the Hydaspes River, modern-day Jhelum, Pakistan. There, in the lush plains, stood King Porus, a tall, proud monarch who ruled the kingdom of Paurava. He commanded over 30,000 soldiers, 4,000 cavalry, and nearly 200 war elephants. These were beasts Alexander's army had never faced before. The Battle of the Hydaspes was brutal. Porus's elephants wreaked havoc on Alexander's Macedonian phalanx. Soldiers were trampled, horses panicked, and formations broke. But Alexander, ever the tactician, used deception. He secretly crossed the river at night with a smaller force, flanked Porus's army, and turned the tide. Porus was defeated but not humiliated. When brought before Alexander, he was asked how he wished to be treated. Porus famously replied, "Like a king." Impressed by his valor, Alexander spared him and made him an ally. But the deeper Alexander went into India, the more he lost his grip, not on the battlefield, but on his army. The Macedonians, exhausted by years of endless campaigns, refused to go further east. At the banks of the Hyphasis River, they revolted. They had heard of the massive Nanda Empire in Magadha, of war elephants numbering in the thousands, and of battles that would dwarf even Hydaspes. Faced with mutiny, Alexander relented. He wept, not because of fear, but frustration. He had never been stopped until India. The return journey was a disaster. Alexander chose to explore the southern route through the Gedrosian desert. Thousands of men perished from thirst and starvation. By the time he reached Babylon, he was a shadow of the god-king he once claimed to be. Alexander would die at just 32, leaving behind an empire without an heir, which soon fractured. But India had changed him. Here, he met his match, not in death, but in defiance. India didn't defeat Alexander, but it made him human. But let's go deeper. What made India such a turning point for Alexander? India wasn't like the lands Alexander had conquered before. In Persia, Egypt, and the Levant, he had faced centralized rule, kingdoms governed by dynasties with a single crown. But in India, he encountered a mosaic of cultures, languages, and local rulers. Every valley had its own chieftain. Every river was guarded by warriors who owed loyalty not to empire, but to tribe and tradition. Moreover, India's spiritual energy was unlike anything the Greeks had ever seen. Ascetics who walked through fire, monks who meditated for weeks, sages who claimed to see beyond time. Alexander, ever the seeker of glory and knowledge, found himself drawn to these holy men, known as gymnosophists. He would send philosophers to question them. Why did they renounce wealth? Why did they welcome death? One story tells of an Indian sage sitting under a tree. When asked by Alexander why he did nothing all day, the sage asked, "What do you do?" Alexander replied, "I conquer the world." Subscribe now for more incredible moments where history turned on a sword's edge. Because empires rise and fall, but legends and the lands they touch echo forever.